Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first session of the day of today's Insights Tech Showcase, Qual at Scale. Before I hand it on over to our speakers, I just want to go over a few things. First, we have that chat box. Let us know where you're tuning in from or drop your LinkedIn. I always love to connect. Next, we have that Q&A box. If you have any questions for our speakers, make sure to drop them there and we'll get to them at the end. And now I will hand it on over to Annie and Tom.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much to you and Greenbook for hosting the event. We're excited to be here today. Welcome to our session where we're going to show you how you can cut your report writing time by 80% or more with Quillit AI. We'll go ahead and get started. I am Annie McDonald. I'm the Global Vice President for Civicom's Marketing Research Services Unit. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Tom.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Director of New Products and Initiatives at Civicom.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. So we'll get started today. I'm just going to give you a quick intro about what is Quillit. It might be something you've already heard about, but for those of you who haven't, Quillit is an AI report generating tool. It uses your chosen qualitative content to create a summary report, answer your questions and prompts, so you can expedite insights and achieve your research objectives. It's essentially an insights extraction tool, and it gives you back up to 80% of valuable time during the analysis process. Quillit does work with content that's generated on any research platform, so it's not a tool that's only available for projects that are supported by Civicom's platforms and other services. Quillit can do a variety of things. In terms of basic functionality, Quillit is ideally suited for processing IDI and focus group content, things like online bulletin board responses, open-ended survey responses, but ideally that qualitative text-based content. It does allow you to input a combination of recording and transcript content together on the same request, which I'll show you in the demo just a little bit later. It's also really, really great at supporting multiple languages. It's exceptional at understanding conversational context, natural language, and takes that into consideration in context of your objectives, your content. You are able to also ask a variety of questions or prompts. It gives you an initial summary and then follows that up with any answers to any questions that you may have about your research content. In addition, there's this learning curve with AI that we're all adjusting to. And so with Quillit, there is the functionality to refine a request and regenerate a report so that as you learn how to write effective prompts or apply the best context for your research content, you can regenerate those reports with ease to get a much higher quality and relevant response back from Quillit.
And Andy, if I can jump in real quickly, just curious, I know it's gone on for about 3 months now since we've been out of beta. Can you tell us a little bit more about, what folks have been using Quillit for and where they've been really getting a ton of value out of?
We've seen a lot of really interesting application for Quillit. Primarily, it's to summarize large volumes of qualitative data. You're going to save the most amount of time if you're thinking about projects where you've got, 30 plus hours of content, 50 plus hours of content, or you're researching across multiple markets, global markets, the ability to converge all of that information into Quillit requests and summarize that information quickly is where we're seeing the most applicable use of it. It does expedite and align initial analysis, like I said, across multiple markets. It's excellent at uncovering what emerging patterns or common themes run across all of that content that you're giving it to summarize. We have a lot of clients that are using it for verbatim quotes. It's really, really great tool for quickly identifying verbatim quotes to support various findings in your research. You're able to ask specific questions as well. So it's not just summarizing your data. You can ask it to answer questions from your discussion guide or questions that you're seeing emerge from the themes that are revealed in the summary. It can also do a bit of generating of creative content. We ask it to generate poems or short stories to kind of give some pizzazz to your reports and something creative to add that supports your research findings. And then we have a number of clients that are having a lot of success using Quillit to generate screener questions or questionnaire drafts based on the initial phase of research and all that content that's being summarized.
Oh, cool. So, for example, like some of our customers are doing things like saying, hey, this is results from phase one, but if I wanted to go ahead and do a phase two, how might I change the screener? Or what might a follow-up questionnaire that digs into the following topics that we saw emerge as themes in the phase one research appear? Got it.
Yes,
Cool.
absolutely. Mm-hmm. So this is a good place for me to actually demo, because some of those things, Tom, we have set up in the demonstration we're going to show you today. So you can see what the actual results of some of those use cases would be. So let me just adjust here and pull up my live demo for you guys. I'm showing
And,
you, oh, sorry, go
and
ahead,
as you're
Tom.
doing that, I'll just call out real quickly too that I'll kind of be the Robin to Annie's Batman today. So as Annie's going through the demo, definitely feel free in the Q&A section to throw in any questions that you do have. And I'll do my best to be monitoring that really well so that I can help to insert those kind of on the fly into the demo so Annie's able to hit all those questions as they arise.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. And thanks, guys, for submitting your questions. And we're happy to clarify anything that is coming up for you. So what I'm showing today is a little different from what we might have done in previous presentations if you'd seen Quillit presented live before. I'm showing the version of Quillit that lives within our Glide Central platform. So Glide Central, really quickly, is a content curation and management platform. It's a place where you can load all of your recordings. If you work with Civicom to host your IDIs and focus groups, this is where you log in to retrieve your content after your sessions conclude. You can also upload transcripts or supporting documentation for your research, and you can generate Quillit reports. So this is the Quillit dashboard within Glide Central. You can see all of your generated reports here, the status of them. If you have one that's processing, it would show up here as processing. You're able to draft your reports as well in case you don't have your content quite ready, but you want to get a jump on the questions you are planning to ask and the context of your research. You're able to draft reports as well. So let me take you through some of these icons. On any of the reports in your dashboard, you can view your report. You can edit that report and regenerate, refine, regenerate, as we were talking about. You can export your report in various formats, text formats, PDF, .docx. And then you can also manage what reports are stored in here, delete anything that you're ready to delete. One really cool feature within the Glide Central version of Quillit is the ability to duplicate report criteria. So this means if you have like the same questions across multiple reports that you need to ask, you can easily duplicate your criteria so you don't have to retype all of that content in for a new report request. So I'm just going to do this live. I'm going to duplicate all of this criteria, but not my recordings and transcripts. And there's my duplicate report. So let's go in and edit that a little bit. So here is the interface. This is Quillit. We do offer Quillit on a standalone basis as well. That's not hosted within Glide. The interface looks almost identical to the standalone version. You want to name your reports here. Within Glide, you get a drop-down menu of all of your recordings and transcripts that are stored in your project folder. So I'm going to just go in here and select some recordings. And then I'm also going to select some transcripts. So you can do a combination of different formats of content. It is recording compatible. So while the platform processes text, it does process recording, audio and video recordings as well. All right, so let me select some transcripts here. And so simply, since I duplicated my criteria, you don't have to watch me type all of this content. Quillit allows you to select the report length that is best suited for you. You have the options of a short, medium, or long summary report to come back, really depending on how much depth of detail you're wanting Quillit to provide back to you. For today's example, we're going to ask a number of questions with several files, so we're doing a long report. The communication style here, this is going to impact the language used on the response you get back from Quillit. So easy to understand, we'll use a more simplified version, simplified language and terminology. Academic, by comparison, is going to assume that maybe you're familiar completely with the content that's being summarized, the topic being discussed, and give you language that any analyst would be able to understand more readily. We're going to do easy to understand today. I'm also super excited about the multilingual support that Quillit provides. So we have a variety of input languages listed here that you can choose from. You can put content in to summarize that is in different languages. I could have a file in Spanish, a file in English, and a file in French, and include all of those different types on the same summary request. And Quillit will be able to process that for me. And then I can also select the output language. So if all of my input is in Spanish and I want it to give me back a report in English, I can dictate that I want that output language to be in English. I want to point out as well here, we have amazing support. This is something that Civicom just has an extremely strong reputation for. For over 20 years, our service and support has been a global standard for people to follow. And that's the same with Quillit. Everything that we do comes with a level of Civicom support. So we have live chat here if there's anything that you might need from us while you're using the tool. Maybe you have a question like, is Quillit using AI translation like Google Translate to support multiple languages? I'm going to go ahead and submit that. You can see Mary has joined the chat. And we'll give her a moment to respond to me. At any time, we can be contacted via email, via request form, live chat on the platform, call. And here's Mary, happy to answer that for you. Some of you may know Mary and work with her. So her response to that question is no. Quillit has been thoroughly trained with content in a wide variety of languages. So Quillit is actually fluent in multiple languages. It does not use AI translation to process multilingual content. Thank you, Mary. That's very helpful. So we're happy to support you. It's a learning curve for everybody. We just want you to know that we are readily available to answer any questions that you might have, provide guidance on how best to optimize use of the platform to achieve your goals.
And Annie, there's a real quick question before we move from the language piece that came in from Ryan. Do you have to specify one language for the entire report? Or if there are multiple languages, are they supported through the same single report?
Great question. So we can, thank you, Mary. All right, so we can support multiple languages coming in on the same report. In this dropdown, you'll notice that I can select multiple languages as my input languages. So it would support a request that had a transcript in French and a recording in German. And I could summarize both of those pieces of content together in the same request. The one caveat is the output language can only be one language. It can't respond to me in multiple languages on the same report, but it can respond in different types of languages. You just got to select the one you would want that response to be in. So I want to move on now to context. Context is a critically important feature of Quillit. You should think about Quillit like a highly skilled intern, really efficient assistant, but like a person where you kind of have to provide them some explanation, some instruction, give them some context to what the information you're giving them is generally about and what you're hoping to achieve from summarizing that content. We have a little pop-up here for when you're using Quillit as a reminder of what the context field should be. So this is essentially defining the files you're summarizing and helping Quillit understand the purpose of your summary. It's essentially the who, what, where, when, and why of your request. Content you might put here would be your project specifications. If you're inputting like a CSV formatted bulletin board transcript, you might want to give some indication of how that file is formatted. Your study objectives would be really relevant content in this field here. Then you're able to ask questions. These are questions, but they don't have to be in question format. They're essentially the prompts, the prompt field. Any AI tool, you must be familiar with prompts if you've been playing with AI. And so the question fields are your prompts. There currently isn't a limit to how many questions you can ask in a single report. There's a little pop-up here as well. If you, in the moment, need a little guidance on what is a question, these are the prompts you want Quillit to respond to. They're questions that you want to ask of your data. They can be requests for verbatim quotes. You can give it direction, like give me this response in a bullet point format. These can be questions from your discussion guide, essentially, that you can summarize the answer across all of your content to the questions in your discussion guide. So for today, I've put in a few questions here for us to reference. One is, what did respondents like most? Give me 2 verbatim quotes to support what they like most. I'm also giving it direction to list these things in order of the frequency that they're mentioned in my report or in my content. Give me 2 verbatim quotes to support what they don't like. And then I'm asking it for some kind of slightly creative responses to come back. For example, what are 5 things an organization can do to improve the quality for their customers? And this will, again, pull from the content you've provided to make those suggestions. This isn't Quillit's basic training saying, oh, well, in my training experience, my opinion is this is what you can do. It's really taking the content from that input and using that information to respond to your question. Here's some of those creative things we looked at in the use case example just a moment ago. Generate a short poem, generate short follow-up questionnaire, and generate 10 screener questions. So here I can save my report criteria. Let's say I'm waiting for those last 2 transcripts to be finished to generate my report. I just had the time to list all my questions and context. So I could save this, draft it for later. Or I can go ahead and apply Quillit and save my report. So I'm going to jump now over to this report. It generates within just a couple of minutes, but in this short window of time, I don't want to spend that looking at the spinning wheels. So here's my report and all of my content criteria. The report is going to give you an initial summary. So this first section you're seeing here with these bullet points about safety, concerns about people handling their food, delivery times. These are all summarization of the content that was given. So it gives you an initial summary of the information, and then it answers your questions in line. Question 1, and it lists the question that I asked. What did respondents like most about online food delivery in the order of frequency mentioned? And you can see my response here, and then it gives me how many respondents mentioned this particular item. Question 2 was about verbatim quotes. So it did give me quotes, and it noted what file each quote came from. Super excited to tell you about some new features that are coming soon. We'll cover that in just a minute because we are already improving upon how to expedite verbatim quotes and finding them in your content. But you can see here I have a quote, and it tells me what file that came from, so I can quickly jump to that particular recording and locate that quote from the respondent. Question 3, again, a question about what they don't like instead of what they do like. Again, these would be similar to your discussion guide questions, for example, or maybe you have a question based on the emerging themes that Quillit identified in the summary. I could refine my questions, add a question about a particular finding in the summary, and regenerate my report with that question included. More quotes, and then it's giving me 5 things an organization can do to improve. And here's my suggestions: reduce fees and delivery charges, improve availability, offer promotions, etc. It gave me a nice short poem. So this is creative, and these are always really cute. And again, it's just a way to creatively kind of zhuzh up or give some pizzazz to your client reports. They rhyme pretty well, and they're fun to look at. Question 7 was asking it to generate a short follow-up questionnaire for respondents that indicate they use mobile app for this particular need. And so it gives me 5 questions that I could use to generate a follow-up questionnaire for my participants. And then generate 10 screener questions to use in recruiting participants. And you can see here, it's given me 10 suggested questions that could go into a recruiting screener for a follow-up phase of research. So this is just to kind of whet your appetite. We really encourage clients and users to be creative with how they are prompting Quillit, trial and error a few things, because we're all still learning what the extent of AI's capability really truly is. I wanted to also show you a quick example when you export the report. This is an example of what it looks like. So it's nicely formatted. You can see it gave me 3 pages of content. It's going to summarize my criteria so I know which files were included in this report. It's going to tell me the questions that I asked and give me a summary in a nice format that I can then work with further. If at any time looking at this, I wanted to update my report criteria, when you're just viewing a report, you can click an existing report. You're viewing an existing report, you click update report criteria, and then you're able to go and edit any of the criteria fields that are there on the report. And that time, keeping within the time structure of today's presentation, is a quick demonstration of Quillit within Glide. All right.
Awesome. So, Annie, I know like security is top of mind for everybody. Do you mind giving kind of a quick high-level perspective on how secure is Quillit? And then another quick add-on question is just obviously in the news cycle of the last few weeks, there's been a ton around like OpenAI and some of the drama that's been happening there. Just curious if you could speak to that as well, as far as like, does Quillit rely on OpenAI, and to what extent is that something that Quillit users would need to be aware of?
Absolutely. We get asked that all the time, actually. And there are a ton of tools out there available in the industry with OpenAI as the backbone technology. We do not utilize OpenAI or its products, ChatGPT, and the various versions of that for the backbone of Quillit. We've chosen a different LLM backbone to derive what Quillit can do. And we made that decision really strongly based on security. We needed something that was secure. When we're building anything at Civicom, that's a primary question we ask, is how can we adhere to all of the global security requirements, data privacy regulations that we're held to? So, and then we build a product from there with security at the forefront. So just to reiterate that question or the answer to that, Tom, like, no, we are not using OpenAI ChatGPT. We are HIPAA compliant. We can get a BAA in place for you if that's something that is really important to you in your organization. We support a huge amount of healthcare, pharmaceutical research, and are having a lot of really great success with Quillit in that area. So we are HIPAA compliant. It's also SOC 2 compliant. We adhere to all the global data privacy compliance regulations, your GDPR, CCPA, the PIP EDA, and some other regulations evolving in Canada. We've got the bases covered with all the state regulations that are working through the system until we get a federal regulation in the state set up. We have an active contracts and compliance team that watches all of those data privacy regulations. And we work really closely with them in maintaining compliance across our platforms. Information is also segregated. Data is segregated. There's access control. It's like a walled garden analogy you hear used a lot. So you certainly have that control within your content. In Glide Central in particular, everything is organized on a per project basis. So project content is controlled and accessible on a per project folder basis. A lot of amazing controls in that platform to control collaboration.
And we have Annie, just to clarify on that last point, so if I'm a researcher, from my perspective, if I'm supporting 8 different customers, some of whom might be competitors of one another, I don't have to be worried about any cross-pollination of the work that I'm doing within Glide or within Quillit. Great. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, correct. I also want to expand a little bit to say that if you have content across multiple projects, we do have ways that you can get all that content in one folder. So you can generate summaries and insights across multiple studies that may have been done for the same client over the course of a year or 2 years. If you're supporting a client on an ongoing basis with their research, Quillit is amazing for uncovering emerging themes over a period of time. We do have end-to-end encryption, both in transit and at rest, covered, and none of the data processed through Quillit is used for training of AI. None of that information is shared with the LLM, is kept or stored by the LLM, is being used for training by the LLM. So all those bases are covered.
And Annie, we just had another question that came in. This one kind of comes back to some of the functionality you had highlighted during the demo, but from Raymond, we have, you mentioned this can generate a questionnaire. Do you mean a qual discussion guide or a quant questionnaire?
It would probably be best suited for qualitative. But I think
can
that
speak a little to this one too, Annie, from like a technical perspective. I think, although qual is the place that a lot of people would kind of jump to initially, I think you could certainly use it. You would just have to make sure that in the question you phrase it as such. So you'd want to kind of give Quillit that additional context within that question of saying, like, please generate, rather than just a generic questionnaire, being more specific, because we'll probably assume qual, given that you had just conducted a qual. But if you say, help me to generate questions that could be used in a quant survey that's about, 10 minutes long, that kind of thing, it could certainly handle as well.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's really interesting to see what we can push Quillit to do. So I'm going to shift and just cover some Glide Central bases, because I mentioned that Quillit's available standalone, meaning that you can just log in, see the Quillit form, generate your reports. Glide is full of benefits for qualitative researchers, though, and so I wanted to cover some of those points. Why would you use Quillit in Glide? Primarily, you can secure all of your research content. It's in an encrypted platform. It's safe. It's secure. You can control access and visibility into that content. And we have a standard 6-month retention policy where you can access that information and benefit from the features that are there and generate your Quillit reports. It's exceptional for collaboration as well. There are different levels of accessibility you can grant to other people that you might be collaborating with throughout the research process. Maybe people on the agency side, you've got an analyst over here, somebody helping with transcription over there. You've got somebody on the end client side that wants visibility. All of those individuals can access that content, and you can control that with varying levels of visibility or control within the feature set. You can generate time-coded machine transcripts within the platform as well. So any recordings you're loading up there's a machine transcript capability. Those transcripts, again, are time-coded to the recording. So you click on a word and the transcript jumps to that point in the recording, and it's editable. There's also tagging, bookmarking, clipping of videos, storyboarding, and highlight reels. And the ability to have unlimited Quillit generation, which is at this moment unique to the Glide-based version versus the standalone version. And this is our last slide, guys. I know we're close on time, so I'm just going to quickly run through. We have some things coming up in 2024. There are things about segmentation. We've gotten a ton of feedback from beta testers and clients using Quillit about enhanced segmentation features. We're also working to identify respondent quotes through citations. The idea with this would identify where in your content Quillit is pulling the answers to your questions, so you can validate, verify where those answers are coming from. And also quick clip. If you're having it generate verbatim quotes, in Glide, those quotes will be clickable. Open your recording in a separate window so you can immediately go where that quote exists and generate a clip of it. There's enhancements coming for improved question asking prompts and more usability friendly things about those. And we're expanding supported languages all the time. And then Tom, anything you would want to add from a new products perspective?
No, I think that hits it. I mean, actually there is one other thing, obviously within our kind of startup studio, we're doing lots of new stuff all the time. One of the cool things that we are starting to look at is incorporating in video feedback and kind of syncing that up with audio, so we can take a look at nonverbal cues that are provided during things like interviews. So if somebody is nodding their head in the affirmative, or if we notice that somebody's exhibiting a particular behavior during the interview, we can layer that now as additional information that's ingested by tools like Quillit. So that's some stuff that we're working on in the background that's really cool and that could lead to some really neat enhancements and future features in things like Quillit.
Thank you, Tom. Tom does so much to keep us on the cutting edge with his team to make sure that we understand all the possibilities that we can roadmap for the future. So thank you guys. We're right on the target, Bridget. So thank you so much for your time, everyone. We greatly value the opportunity to present Quillit to you, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Annie and Tom. This was a really great presentation, super informative. And thank you to all of our attendees for being here. Remember, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Annie or Tom or the email that you see on screen. But with that, we'll see you over in the next session. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.